fellow Americans.
Let's talk about the situation at the border. We've seen a huge surge in migrants crossing the border since January. The number of children in custody higher than it was than its 2019 peak during the Trump administration. Your colleague Veronica Escobar of Texas called the conditions there unacceptable. She was there on Friday. Is she right? What more must be done?
Actually, the facts are these. There are more children, about 600-700 more children, unaccompanied children, coming over the border. This is a humanitarian challenge to all of us. What the administration has inherited is a broken system at the border, and they are working to correct that in the children's interest. I'm so pleased that the president, as a temporary measure, has sent FEMA to the border in order to help facilitate the children going from one 72-hour issue into where they are cared for as they are transferred into family homes or homes that are safe for them to be.
And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021 when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries. That puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. My husband is a combat veteran. He's deployed now. The last thing I want him or any of his military brothers and sisters to do is to go to war.
But I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
One of the reasons that the administration has hesitated is because they believe it will escalate things even further with Russia pull the U.S. further in. Why not? Why do you think that's a good idea?
Because it's Russia that has escalated this war. Russia has learned how to pull its forces back out of the range where we have allowed Ukraine to use our weapons and get our support.
American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
A U.S. official has confirmed to CBS News President Biden has given authorization for Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range weapons to strike deep into Russian territory.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the question about whether or not that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you.
British police came into the embassy and arrested.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters, as the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
Individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing. And I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone who's not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Biden administration repeatedly pressured Meta to censor content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we do not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash, the long overdue year when the past or sell-by-date labels, conspiracy theorist among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
Wake up, everybody. Welcome into Redacted, your show. The show is not brought to you by APEC. Unlike all members of Congress, this show is free of APEC. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
Good to see all of you guys. We got a busy show for you because what the hell is happening right now at the White House? I mean, the White House, I don't even think they're in damage control. They're just continuing to do damage on themselves.
That's a good way to put it.
There's no like scrambling. They're just continuing to like burn themselves right now. It's unbelievable. Continuing to flip-flop on this Epstein story. Yesterday, President Trump comes out and says, let Pam Bondi release, some of the files that are credible. We'll let her do that. She's doing a great job. And then today says, basically, it's a hoax, and if you guys believe it, you're all idiots.
Right, as the redhead libertarian put it. We thought that Trump was going to go scorched earth on the deep state. Instead, he's going scorched earth on anyone who had any semblance of believing that he would, in fact, do what his supporters wanted, which was end the war in Ukraine, have full transparency of the Epstein Files, et cetera, et cetera. Those things don't seem to be a priority. And so instead, now the White House is saying, but egg prices are down.
So we'll talk about that.
I don't observe that. In fact, yesterday I bought eggs and I'm like, they're back up again. Same with gas. So it was a temporary, I don't know what the heck, you guys, but we're here together and we're going to try and make sense of the tea leaves. It sounds to me a lot like, when you go into a bathroom at like a bar or something and it says, if your date's being aggressive, come and ask for the tropical drink, right? And we'll call the police.
I've never seen that but then again, I'm a dude, so I wouldn't be hanging out in the
code for like if you're in trouble, because they're lying so badly. It feels like they're saying we don't even expect you.
Like,
to
are we
this
supposed
stuff.
to be watching like Trump to blink twice? Like, are you in trouble?
That's
like, who's
what it
controlling
feels
you?
like. Let me know if you feel that. So we're going to talk to Max Blumenthal on the show here because he is able to make these connections, whereas we can say things like it does seem like there's some connections to Israel. He's got the goods. So we're going to talk to him about that.
We're also going to talk about all this additional money and weapons going to Ukraine and why the United States is bombing Somalia today. Why is the United States bombing Africa? Also, why is Israel using U.S. weapons and bombing Damascus, Syria? On live television, destroying the defense building there. The head of the defense industry building in downtown Damascus, a friend of the show, Kevork Almasian, said it's even worse than he could have possibly imagined, Syrian journalist. So Colonel Douglas McGregor is going to join us on that story. Also, Kyle Seraphin, FBI whistleblower, is going to join us today as well to talk about Kash Patel, because at the FBI, something really fishy is happening at the FBI beyond what we already see. But why is Kash Patel like trying to live in Las Vegas in this like giant mansion and run the FBI out of this mansion? We're going to unpack this weird story, plus so much more on the show today.
And the Holocaust piece on the 4 story, we're actually going to do that tomorrow. What we are going to talk about at the end of the show is how the EPA is saying chemtrails are a conspiracy, not real. Inaccurate. We're going to show you that.
There's a lot of them telling us that we're just being stupid. This is a hoax. Epstein's a hoax.
Right.
Chemtrails are a hoax now. You should look away and not even pay. Give me a break. I'm sick of these idiots. I'm really sick of these idiots in Washington, D.C. So we'll talk about all of that.
Sure. But first we want to... shall I do this?
Do it.
First, we want to tell you about our show sponsor, which is Kickoff. Now, if you are thinking that you're going to make a major purchase and you're going to need good credit in the near future, but you don't have that, Kickoff is a great place to go in order to make sure that you can do a little credit workout. You can have a faster way to build credit. Now, they have popular plans that are just $5 a month. You will put money into your Kickoff account, and then you are able to build your credit little by little. They give you a real credit line, so this will go on your credit score, and it's just for credit building, and it reports to all 3 major credit bureaus. Kickoff helps you quickly improve the key factors that determine your credit. You get a new account, and immediately your credit is diversified and stronger. So go to getkickoff.com/redacted. It's GETKIKOFF.com/redacted. You can get your first month for only $1. And again, if you're planning to buy a home, buy a car, and you don't have good credit, well, then those loan products are going to cost you more. And that sucks. The better your credit is, the better deal you're going to get on the things that you want and need in your real life, a home, a loan, a car, what have you. So go to Get Kickoff and beef up your credit score so that you can play the financial game better than most. One more time, you'll get your first month for only $1. Plans start as low as $5. Get kickoff.com/redacted.
All right. Well, what the hell is going on? Yesterday, Trump tells Pam Bondi to release the Epstein Files, or at least the parts of it that he says are credible. Watch.
But she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
All right. So whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Then this morning, Trump wakes up, takes a dump, gets on his phone. Well, he's probably sitting on the crapper for about an hour and a half, and he types out this thing on Truth Social. And radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again, just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had come from Russia, blah, 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 blah. Now their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and sinker.
Past supporters.
Past supporters. So if you were a supporter and you believed what Trump had to say about getting the Epstein Files out, you're a past supporter.
You're out of the group. Get out.
Yeah, get out. Then today he doubled down on this when a reporter asked him in the White House. He was sitting there. With the head of who was it? I forget who the.
I can't remember.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Brain. It's one of those days. That guy. He's sitting there, and he loves to do this. He'll put on like a whole press conference with like the head of a foreign country, just like sitting there, like, oh, geez, what did I walk into? Anyway, he was asked about this by a reporter, and he said this.
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein Files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your Attorney General told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen?
No, it's not the Attorney General. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him.
Yeah, okay. Then the Babylon Bee tweeted this, which, you know, as Natalie pointed out earlier in our little private text chain, this isn't even a joke.
It should be a joke, but it's not. Man who vowed to release Epstein Files berates idiots for believing there are Epstein Files. None of his timeline makes sense. Recall that Epstein was re-arrested under the first Trump administration after he had already gone to jail. So how is that possible? Max Blumenthal is the editor of The Gray Zone. He joins us now, and he has really put together the connections that we are not supposed to put together when it comes to Epstein and what have you. So why, Max, do you think he is doing this? And can you walk us through the connections that you put regularly on X, such as Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Epstein's visits to Israel, the things that we are not supposed to see? Thank you for going through this with us.
Well, I don't know if that's the reason why Trump is so out of step with his base. There's definitely an Israel connection there, and that may expose more, but we know so much about it. And I mean, I'll answer your question directly. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad asset, basically had a state funeral in Israel. The Mossad director and the Israeli prime minister went to his funeral. And he was very well connected with intelligence, as well as with the French government and with the stepfather, Samuel Pissar, of Tony Blinken, who was a Secretary of State under Biden. Jeffrey Epstein had connections across both parties. He had very close pro-Israel connections, like Alan Dershowitz. He was deep in Donald Trump's world. Towards the end of his life, starting in like 2008, he became, starting later than that, I should mention, back to the Israel connection, just so I can nail down this question. Epstein had relationships with 4 Israeli prime ministers. He was very close to Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak was visiting his place dozens of times. Everyone watching this has probably seen the photo of Ehud Barak trying to slip into Epstein's townhouse with his face covered. He knew Shimon Peres, former Israeli prime minister. He also knew Ehud Olmert. These are all from the labor side, but he also was able to arrange meetings for JP Morgan executives with Netanyahu, which they were really seeking out after Netanyahu became prime minister in 2009. So that's 4 prime ministers. Do we know if Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent? I don't know. multiple passports. He went to Israel in 2008 after he was afraid he would be convicted for trafficking in the United States or soliciting prostitution. He also was seeking passports not only to travel through Israel, but also to Africa. I believe some kind of Saudi ID was found in his home after he died. And we don't really know about all the contents of his safe and other things that were found in his home, but there may be a much more mundane explanation for all this, which is that Donald Trump fears deep structural political damage if he releases any more information or allows this to continue because of his deep, long-standing, abiding relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And Steve Bannon, also his former chief of staff, was close friends with Jeffrey Epstein, recorded over 15 hours of footage interviewing Epstein in his home, and has never released it. He never even released the 2021 documentary he was producing. Howard Lutnick, who was on the Commerce Secretary, who was on the tarmac with Donald Trump when Trump was basically spitting on his own base and calling them all crazy conspiracy theorists. Howard Lutnick shared a wall with Jeffrey Epstein's townhome, bought his own townhouse from a company, a holding company set up by Epstein and his business partner, Les Wexner. So these connections are abundant, and I think Trump may have just very personal reasons for not wanting to release any more info.
I mean, does he have the power to do that, to just not release this? I mean, Congress, you saw that motion by Thomas Massie yesterday, Congressman Massie pushing forth to solidify this and to try to get Congress on the record about this and release that. Roger Stone coming out saying there's one way to do this, which is under the Trump administration in the Southern District of New York, under the former Trump administration in 2019, just release that indictment, release everything that was, related to all of that, and stop calling us all idiots. Stop calling us all morons for wanting these files released.
Jeffrey Epstein died on Trump's watch after being visited in prison by then Attorney General and former CIA agent Bill Barr, who wrote all the pardons back in the day for the Iran-Contra felons. He's sort of a cover-up man. So there was not really much hunger in the first Trump administration to get any of this out. Then you have the Biden administration come into power. They didn't bring up Epstein when it clearly could have hurt Trump during the campaign. Kamala Harris didn't have any connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Why didn't she bring this up? And why didn't Biden's very weaponized, very politicized FBI under the watch of and DOJ Director Merrick Garland seek to release anything? Well, maybe there was nothing there, or maybe the Democrats were also compromised because Bill Clinton was still a towering figure in the Democratic Party, along with so many others in the Democratic Party who had known Jeffrey Epstein. But now what you can see the Democrats doing, and if I'd been an advisor to Kamala, I would have told her the only way you could possibly win, because you're one of the worst candidates since, I don't know, Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton, is to bring up Epstein again and again, because it will demoralize Trump's base and break his mystique. What I would have done, if I were them, was to bring it up constantly. But we're at a different point now where the Clintons don't have the same hold over the party. Barack Obama's a faded figure. Like, the past is kind of gone. But Biden's like staring at a wall right now, drooling. And so you have a younger generation of Democrats who have figured out that this is the Achilles heel of Donald Trump. And so Ro Khanna, who wants to be the future of the party and kind of be the meeting point between the Bernie Sanders movement and the kind of Obama centrists, he is pushing this very hard in the House. And Thomas Massie, who is being targeted by Donald Trump, is joining him to introduce a resolution to call for the full release of the Epstein files. So this is sort of a generational thing, because the Epstein generation is dying, and you have a young generation at the base, Donald Trump's base. I wouldn't even really call them Republicans. They're sort of like right-wing America First, that is in sort of full revolt against Donald Trump, and they want a new generation of leadership. So this is not going to go away. And finally, this isn't just about Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein has become a proxy or a catch-all for all of Trump's betrayals of his base on Ukraine, where he's now rearming Ukraine and imposing sanctions on Russia, bombing Iran. The anti-immigrant part of his base is mad that he's going to do a potential amnesty for undocumented hotel workers. There's so many betrayals, and Epstein just kind of crystallizes it all.
Now, you can tell that he thinks he's launching a new conspiracy theorist term that will deter people from looking there. So Russiagate, Russia, fake news, these things have worked really well for him in the past. So this branding of Epstein hoax, it does feel to me like he thinks that this will do it. And as soon as you slap this crazy person label on it, then, there's no more. But the mainstream media, it's so funny, is not fighting him. And so we see here at play a uniparty, people trying to protect themselves. And so it does feel very much like there's this older generation that needs to be protected. But do you think that there's anybody new, like any of the up and comers who may be compromised by anything like this? Or is it just like you have to be under 60 to want this?
I was on the Hill yesterday. I went to a meeting of the Republican Study Group, which is 70 Republican members of Congress. And they were setting up meetings with new media in a big room in the Cannon House office building, because these are like backbenchers who want publicity. And so I kind of swooped in there and started asking them all about the Epstein Files. And most of them were just falling into line with Trump because they have to, because it was Trump's movement and Trump's money and political muscle that put them in power, and he can take them out. Look at what he's trying to do to Thomas Massie, teaming up with AIPAC to take out one of the favorite members of America First because he hasn't fallen into line with Trump. He's too independent. So they're all afraid of Trump. Trump thinks that his base is a cult, and they have behaved like one, partly because of weaponized investigations that were fake, like the Russiagate hoax. Trump has said that if I stood in the middle of Fifth Ave in New York and shot a man, they would all still support me. The problem is that he was seen as a sort of victim hero in the past, but then he and his influencers, like FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, when he was an astroturfed radio host, were promising this giant drop of the Epstein Files, which sort of capitalized off the narrative in the first Trump administration, started by like influencers, like lesser known figures like Ron Watkins, who started the QAnon concept that Trump was going to take down the pedophile elite blackmail rings. And so there was this expectation that Trump would actually take on the deep state and that releasing the Epstein Files would be the ultimate takedown. Then it turns out Donald Trump is compromised. There are photos, there's video of him and Jeffrey Epstein hanging out with Buffalo Bills cheerleaders who are grinding all over Trump, and Trump's joking about them. And so it starts to seem like actually they've been had, they've been took, they've been hoodwinked and bamboozled by this guy who's one of them. And I don't know, I think you have to be a massive dupe to not realize that this was always the case with Trump, but they were tricked by all these influencers. And now where's Dan Bongino? Where is he? He's hiding in Florida. He might quit the FBI. I don't know. He had a huge screaming match with Pam Bondi, who's the Trump loyalist attorney general. And the crack up is just beginning. So I think the Democrats are going to take this Epstein ball and run with it. And that will be the only thing Trump will have. Well, he'll say, well, the Democrats are trying to exploit this Epstein hoax, this Epstein conspiracy theory. So you have to line up with me. Otherwise, they're going to fill up your daughter's locker room with trans males or something. And he'll take it back to the culture war.
It's so disturbing. Yeah, I don't know if the strategy is going to work where he calls us all retarded for wanting the release of the Epstein Files. That's basically what he's doing. He's like, oh, last week we were all in favor of getting the Epstein Files out. I stood up here at the podium and told you we're going to do it, full transparency, and now you're all retarded.
Right. But I think that, most of us were really keen on getting Democrats out of office because the Biden years were hell. But we knew that Trump had not done a lot of swamp draining during his first administration. We thought we'd get maybe small measures of something. This is really This is beyond insulting for anyone who had any kind of hope that small measures, which it feels like a poison pill, don't you think?
It was a poison pill that Donald Trump injected into the veins of his base by making these promises. I mean, that's the difference between this and the Russiagate hoax, is that Trump tried to own this, or his people tried to own it, and it worked very well, along with the Hunter Biden laptop, which was real, in poisoning the Democrats in their eyes. The problem is Jeffrey Epstein was a sort of a bipartisan operation. He compromised everybody who touched him. And, I should say that I come from the left. I'm not a Republican. I did not support Donald Trump, but I didn't support Biden or Hillary or Obama either. The reason that I couldn't support the Democrats is I don't support the status quo. And the Democrats and their donor base, and a large part of their base in general, just generally supports the status quo in the United States. And what Trump successfully did was he peeled off all these different groups that opposed the status quo for various reasons, including Rust Belt voters who were abandoned during the years of globalization under Clinton. He peeled off Iraq war veterans who felt abandoned and hated John McCain, and on and on. I never really came along, but now you have Trump owning the part of the American electorate, or a large part of it, that opposes the status quo, doesn't trust the elites, hates the establishment, and now they're identifying him with Jeffrey Epstein and starting to see that there's this actual cover-up of Trump's relationship with one of the most odious figures sitting at the center of the world of reptilian shapeshifter, Davos hovercraft elite sex perverts. And that's a big problem. They're not, and the only thing Trump has, though, is that in the US, there's no choice. Like, what was my choice in the last election? My choice was to vote for either these two or to vote for Jill Stein. And, I helped her get to like 0.9%. So there's no vehicle for anyone who's disgusted with Donald Trump within his base right now. And at the end of the day, in 2026 or 2028, he's just going to say, he's going to just bring up a bunch of culture war issues, as the Democrats do, and expect his base to fall in line.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Max Blumenthal, great to see you as always. Thank you so much. And watch Max's clip. He went after Randy Fine yesterday. It was amazing. Go on X and watch that. We don't have time now to talk about it, but it was a thing of beauty.
Well, I got an Epstein video coming out from that same setting, so look for that at the Gray Zone.
All right, follow Max on X. He'll publish it there. Also check out the Gray Zone as always. Max, great to see you. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good seeing you.
All right, coming up here on the show, we're going to talk about what Max just talked about. We're rearming Ukraine, doubling down on that. Can you attack Moscow? Trump says, I didn't actually say that when I talked to Zelensky, but we're also bombing Somalia as we speak, and Israel is using our weapons right now to bomb the capital of Syria. Let's talk to Colonel Douglas McGregor on that story, which
Before we move on, though, do you feel like because he does such a great job of pointing out these are unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And so we absolutely cannot accept the Epstein hoax branding. We absolutely cannot accept that there is no connection to Mossad, but just because Naftali Bennett says it. I don't really care what the Israeli government says. They lie all the time. So that's not a data point. So it feels like...
No, but Ben Shapiro said he heard right from Naftali Bennett. Ben
Naftali
Shapiro
Bennett
believes
said it
him.
himself on X. He put his own post up.
But Ben Shapiro believes it.
Okay.
Shouldn't you?
No, these are, I'm just going to say, in case you didn't know this about me, that trusting governments is not my strong point. So I don't give a shit what Israel says. I'm not going to believe them.
Yeah.
And so these are mountains that have not been explored, right? This is uncharted territory. So we need to collectively say, we reject that. We know that there's something there. We don't know what it is.
They're gaslighting us.
Right.
And they hope that
so
we're too stupid.
to this branding. Absolutely no. Okay. I just wanted to see if you felt that way or.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Trump's basically calling all of us who believe it retarded. And I personally am not retarded. And I'm not going to.
He's not.
I'm not. And I'm not going to sit back and allow you to call me that because of the facts that are there in front of us. So you can suck right off to that one. Okay. We've got more news to get to here in a moment. We're going to talk about Ukraine. We're going to talk about Somalia. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about Kash Patel and chemtrails as well. We're going to do all of that. But first, if you're still tossing and turning at night, feeling edgy during the day, let me tell you about our friends over at CBD Distillery. Millions are turning to their CBD for relief because it works. In fact, over 90% of customers report better sleep with CBD. And it's not just sleep. CBD Distillery offers targeted formulations for just about everything. My mom, I've been sending this to her since Mother's Day for like a few years now. There's like a cream that she can put on her hands because she's got arthritis, and it makes her hands feel incredible. So much better. Releases that inflammation, gets rid of it. No fillers, just pure premium CBD. They actually sent me some of this, and I put it on. It's like some shoulder pain. And it comes like in a roller, and you can actually just rub it on. My neck pain was gone like in a few minutes after putting it on. It's pretty amazing. So check it out. If you're struggling with sleep, stress, or other health concerns and haven't found relief yet, make the change like millions are to CBD Distillery. And for a limited time, you can save 25% off your entire purchase. So visit CBD Distillery. Use the promo code Redacted at CBD Distillery, promo code Redacted. And again, cbddistillery.com. And check them out. Go there right now. And specific product availability depends on the state regulations, by the way, in your state. All right. Well,
why is the U.S. bombing Somalia right now? Do we have the bandwidth for this? You may remember we are supporting the war in Gaza. We are supporting the war in Ukraine. We are also bombing Syria and now Somalia. In fact, U.S. African Command, that's AFRICOM, has admitted to at least 51 airstrikes in Somalia so far this year, with limited media coverage and vague civilian casualty reporting. That's not new. We always get this precision strike BS, but really we kill civilians all the time in the Middle East. So why are we doing this while we are also escalating a war with Russia, which the media is very confusing about? We don't know what to believe. President Trump yesterday said he did not ask Ukrainian President Zelensky to strike Moscow, contrary to what the Financial Times reported. Here's how the FT put it, according to people who had heard a conversation. Volodymyr, can you hit Moscow? Can you hit St. Petersburg too? Trump asked on the call, according to the people. Okay. Zelensky said, absolutely we can if you give us the weapons. Okay, the people. I don't know how to take that one, but Trump says that's not true. Meanwhile, Politico reports that Trump doesn't even believe that Ukraine can win the war against Russia. No serious person does. So what's going on here? Joining us to discuss is retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor. Douglas Macgregor joins us, and he is the one who knows these things about these types of strategies. So that's the person we go to. What do you make of this? Let's go. I don't know. Let's roll the dice. Where would you like to start? Ukraine, Somalia, Syria?
I'd like to state right up front that I am not the president's psychoanalyst. So please don't assume that I understand everything that's happening. Secondly, I got to go back to Max Blumenthal's segment and memorize that list he came up of: reptilian, shape-shifting, UFO chasing. Good Lord, whatever it was classic.
We need a shirt.
Saturday Night Live will get a hold of that and make millions from it. It was brilliant. Look, why are we doing what we're doing in Somalia? Somalia is this basket case that has had al-Shabaab and ISIS-related entities in it, as have several other African countries. Now, we've been booted out of most of Central and West Africa, where we had a substantial presence, but we're still in Somalia and presumably welcomed by the government, which is partially subsidized by us. And so we are at will to pick targets or to take nominations, I guess, from our friends in the Somali government regarding who out there deserves to die. Now, if you're going to ask me, does this make sense? Is this part of a coherent strategy? Is this making us any safer? I have no idea. It's one of these things, you do it because you can, and you're dealing with people that have no air defense weaponry, no capacity to detect you and fire at you. It really doesn't drain us in terms of weapons, because we're using precision-guided bombs, no doubt, but we're not using the more expensive missiles that are so vital to operations as we saw in the 12-week war with Iran. So, that's the best answer I could give you on that one.
No, if I may, sure. You have been an advisor to Secretary of Defense in the past, so can the U.S. defense, the U.S. military handle this many wars? Can any organization do this with any type of measurable success?
Well, we are at war with Iran. President Trump made us a co-belligerent, but at the moment we're not shooting at them. And as far as I know, they're not shooting at us. In Ukraine, we are effectively a co-belligerent, and we're at war with Russia. But Russia has chosen to exercise restraint and not counterattacked us. So to answer your question, if these things were to grow hot tomorrow morning, you'd be right. We'd be very overstretched. In fact, a good friend of mine who's familiar with the missile inventories, who's still working for the Department of Defense, said we have about 8 days worth of missiles. I said, so what does that mean? He said, well, the conventional war, if we fight it against the Russians, Chinese, Iranians, doesn't matter anywhere, can last 8 days. After that, we have to go nuclear. I said, oh, you're kidding. He said, no, that's the truth. So to answer your question right now, yes, you can get away with a lot of things because it's tertiary, but it could rapidly become overwhelming overnight. And you're right to make that point, Natalie.
8 days.
8 days.
Until nuclear.
Yeah.
8 days to nuke. Okay.
I want to show you what happened over the past few hours in Damascus, Syria. Of course, we are providing bombs to Israel, of course, and coordinating with them. They're not doing anything on their own without direct involvement, I would think, from the United States.
I wouldn't bet on
downtown. Let me just show you some video here, Colonel, and I'm sure you've seen it. Downtown Damascus, Syria today, live on television, bombing of their defense industry, defense buildings. Watch. But don't worry, Benjamin Netanyahu says we're going after the bad guys. So, this is all good news. Colonel, what do you make of what's happening in Syria?
Well, there are a number of things going on. First, you have the Druze who've had their conflicts with the Sunni Muslim Arabs that are in the government now, the sort of rebranded ISIS/Al-Qaeda types. And Israel said that it was going to strike in support of the Druze, which is, as far as we're concerned, that's fine. Now they suddenly attacked the defense ministry. People are trying to figure out what's going on there. There are various theories because we have a very definite conflict underway between the Israelis and the Turks. It's not a hot conflict, it's a cold one. But some people are theorizing that striking that defense ministry was a message sent to Mr. Erdogan and the Turks. You've got this fragile pact, if you will, between the Turks and the Israelis, that they're going to sort of jointly administer what's left of the region. The Turks want control of most of Syria. The Israelis want some of the south. The Turks don't agree with that. The government in Damascus has now said they want northern Lebanon to be annexed to Syria. And I suspect that they're looking to eventually seize control of the area where the Russians sit. The Turks are in favor of this as long as it doesn't result in war with Russia. This is what happens when you unhinge the region. And we have been working tirelessly for years, certainly for at least 15, to bring down Assad, destroy that country, which we've done, and to bring a government to power that we thought we could control. Well, I don't think we can, despite Mr. Trump's visit and telling everyone that Mr. Gilani, the former Al-Qaeda/ISIS terrorist, is really a very fine young man and a very smart guy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And, it's also convenient, too. I mean, we'll put this up here on the screen. This was all happening inside of Israel. This bombing happened right as Netanyahu was sitting in trial. But it was convenient. The trial got adjourned right as the strikes were happening because, Netanyahu had to go to television and tell us all what was really going on. So it's very convenient. Every time he has to face the judiciary, he just bombs somebody.
Well, I'm surprised he hasn't jailed the judiciary as a matter of national security. That may yet happen. Remember, President Trump at the insistence of the Likud and the Israel lobby, said, I stand 100% by Mr. Netanyahu. He's a great hero. You have no right to prosecute him. I'm with Netanyahu. So that's kept him in power. I suspect that that'll work for some time to come. But the point is that nothing is solved. There is no peace in sight, and there is no coherent strategy. The strategy right now is effectively we're going to do in the region whatever the Israel lobby wants us to do, whatever Mr. Netanyahu tells us to do, and eventually we're going to get back to war with Iran. And anybody who thinks otherwise is probably delusional.
So you really, because you heard all like the MAGA influencers that were making fun of people like us, saying, we're sitting on the precipice of World War III, and they're like, look at all you panicans out there. World War III didn't happen. We're not going to war with Iran. Trump is, Jesus Christ. He's just walking on water. He carried out this attack, and now we're moving on from it. So you really believe, I believe it, but you really believe we are going to war with Iran?
Well, we're already at war. It's just that for the moment, there's a pause. That pause is going to end. Now, I predicted that it would probably last well into September. I could be wrong. It could go hot again, by mid-August. But it struck me that it would take that long for us to replenish at least a substantial portion of the missile arsenal in Israel. And remember, we had all of these ships and aircraft sitting in the Middle East or at sea for a very long time. Our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines were worn out. They needed a break badly. The fleet is overstretched, and they've run out of a lot of missiles. So those things have to be addressed, because we certainly don't want a war to restart unless we're present, because otherwise Israel is unable to defend itself when it comes under attack again by Iran. So everybody wants to know, okay, Doug, when's the war begin again? I sort of thought September, but you've got all sorts of people out there gaming this, trying to figure out when it'll go. But I think logistics constrain us at least until the middle of September. Now, as far as World War III is concerned, it's very important that everybody understands something. The President Putin no longer pays any attention really to what President Trump says. Nobody in Moscow cares what he says, because he's not truthful. And they don't depend on us. They watched us lie to the Iranians and then effectively set them up for a surprise attack by the Israelis. We lied to them about the Minsk Accords. We've lied to them continually about everything. And Trump turns around and says, well, I'm unhappy, so I'm going to restart aid. Well, the $10 billion, probably 40, 50% of that'll be stolen anyway, which is what we've seen in Ukraine before. But it's certainly not going to make any difference on the battlefield. So I would expect the Russians to press ahead until they've achieved their aims. They have a way to go yet. They're close. But I would not exclude the possibility that they cross the Dnieper River and they move directly on Kiev and eventually down to Odessa. Then I think they will be somewhat satisfied. And one of the things that I think President Putin is waiting for is change in the governments in Western Europe. They're all very fragile. Anyone who thinks that Merz is wildly popular in Germany needs his head examined. He's hanging on, but he could be gone very quickly. So could Macron and even Starmer. So I think they're trying to move cautiously. They don't want to provoke a wider war if they can avoid it, but they're not going to stop what they're doing, and they're not going to pay any attention to anything we say.
Right. The RT headline just a few moments ago, Trump arms Ukraine, Russia doesn't care. They really don't, right? And so Zelensky today says, well, can you reconsider those missiles? But what you just said is we kind of need them ourselves, first of all, and we're giving them breadcrumbs. But now Zelensky has withdrawn Ukraine from the landmark anti-mine treaty, and they've been violating it all along. And so it's like we are allowing them to continue to fight dirty instead of pushing them to a peace negotiation if they in fact had nothing, right? And so it's like they're fighting with brass knuckles and, however else you might want to define fighting dirty. If we just took it all away, they would have to go to peace. But instead, we are facilitating just this horrific suffering, civilian by civilian. Is that how you see it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And everything the Ukrainian government has accused the Russians of doing are things they themselves have done. The Russian performance in the field is remarkable. Not only has Putin been very, very cautious about the loss of Russian life, He's also instructed his generals, and they have largely done this more successfully than I think I could, and limited the collateral damage. Ukraine is now a what's the right word, a totalitarian state where goon squads run around and press people into service. They tried to press a Hungarian out in western Ukraine on Ukrainian soil into service, and he was killed. The Hungarians are up in arms over this. I think the Ukrainian state is falling apart. If it was ever that good to begin with, it's being held together basically by graft, and we've facilitated the graft. Well, that's just about as far as they're going to get. I don't think you'll ever get someone in Kiev to say, that's it, we give up, let's come to a solution. I think, in fact, he and his inner circle will climb into jets and fly off to parts unknown and leave the country to be destroyed, because that's effectively what they've done. They've led Ukraine down the path of destruction. I see no evidence that that's going to change. And by the way, people aren't paying attention to what's going on in the Pacific. In the Pacific, we're still trying to build up in a rather laughable way for a war with the Chinese. And it's simply ludicrous nonsense thinking we're going to turn Taiwan into a Ukraine at sea. We have no chance whatsoever of success against the Chinese. They are a great continental power. They have all of the advantages of sitting on land with all of the missiles you could ever imagine. Whatever numbers of missiles you saw that the Iranians can shoot, there are infinitely more that will come from China. This is all nonsense. We really need to put an end to this, but there is no strategy and no will. And the president of the United States seems to be a puppet of whomever last spoke to him. He's surrounded by Israeli influencers. He's surrounded by lobbyists from the defense industry, advocates for the pharmaceuticals. Just go down the list. The man is not his own free agent. Now, could he be? Well, of course. But, remember what Andrew Jackson said, one man with courage makes a majority. Well, it's time for him to have some courage, because none of this is in the interest of the American people at all. And the fact that he would continue to ignore the atrocity in Gaza is incomprehensible. It's unforgivable.
Yeah. Colonel Douglas Macgregor, always great to see you. Thank you so much for your analysis and insights. As always, we appreciate it. Thanks, Colonel.
All right. Thank you both. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Colonel.
Well, the theme of the show today, Clayton, is WTF.
Yeah.
That is. We just have to keep asking the questions while we're allowed. You guys, we can't figure out what the hell's going on, but we'll just keep asking the questions. Coming up, we have questions about the FBI. What the heck's going on there? How is Kash Patel running this? How is he, again, WTF? The Environmental Protection Agency is now saying chemtrails are not a real thing. It is based on false conspiracies. We're going to talk about that as well. But before we move on to more WTF, Clayton is going to tell you about our friends over at Brightcore Nutrition. This is something that Clayton loves to talk about, which is his kimchi pills. Go ahead, Clayton.
Every freaking day I take them and I love them. Ladies and gentlemen, our world is being poisoned. Every day we're exposed to more chemicals sprayed into our skies, leaching into our food, polluting our air and water from pesticides, heavy metals, hormone disruptors, synthetic additives. These toxins are bombarding our bodies and silently destroying our health. But there's something you can do to fight back, and it starts right in your gut. Kimchi 1 from our friends at Brightcore Nutrition contains over 900 strains of beneficial probiotics that help flush toxins, restore gut balance, and support your immune system. When your gut is strong, your body can resist all of this. You'll feel the difference: better digestion, more energy, clearer thinking, stronger immunity, even improvements to your skin, hair, and metabolism. This isn't just hype. Studies show that fermented foods like kimchi can reduce the risk of obesity, improve blood sugar, support whole body wellness. And Kimchi 1 is an all-natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, 100% made in the USA by a company that actually cares about your health. And today you can get 25% off your order by using the code REDACTED. Just go to mybrightcore.com/redacted. I take it every day. I take 3 of these pills every day, and it's fantastic. For the best deal, call, and actually, you can actually save more than that. You get 50% off if you just get on the phone and call them. So you get 25% off if you just go to the website. You get 50% off and free shipping if you call their 800 number and actually talk to their team. They're an American team. 888-404-6312, and you'll even get a free bottle of vitamin D3 with your order if you just get on the phone with them and call them. Get up Seriously, mybrightcore.com/redacted, get 25% off. Or if you call them, 888-404-6312 for 50% off and free shipping. There is a deep rot inside the FBI, and it's a good thing, though, that Kash Patel is focused on what matters most, himself, buying up private jets so he can fly to Las Vegas and join up with parties and clubs. And the FBI website has now been updated. Before, the site used to look like this, showing threats to America. You can see cyber stalking and all of this and these terrorist plots. And here's the new website. Here's the new FBI website. It's all focused on Kash Patel himself, front and center on the front page. New reports show that Kash is getting ready to acquire new private jets for himself, for the FBI, bringing boxes of liquor on board so he can have a full wet bar on these flights as well. So why does an unelected FBI director need a private jet? Former FBI whistleblower Kyle Seraphin is not happy about this. He posted this. FBI Director Kash Patel is not satisfied with the FBI's Gulfstream 550 and looking to upgrade to a bigger jet because his wealthy friends have them. Sources within the FBI headquarters and the FBI's protective details have stated that he brings boxes of alcohol on flights to Vegas. And Kyle posted this little gem, this little scene video, on the night that Kash was confirmed as FBI director, where he talks about how he's glad he's confirmed so that now he can fly in private jets just like his billionaire friends. Watch.
The only reason I took this job was because my business acumen sucks. All these guys have their own private jet, so the only way I was going to get mine was becoming the director of the FBI. And I will do.
FBI whistleblower Kyle Seraphin joins us now. Kyle, great to see you. So, yeah, you posted this question. I mean, why does an unelected FBI director need a private jet? Not just one private jet, but two to fly around the country. What did your audience say about that?
Well, the folks on X, I think, interestingly enough, a few people think that they should have private jets. I got the impression that they were being facetious. They thought I was being facetious, maybe the way I asked. But 80+% of people think that they should fly either first class or coach and, fly like the rest of us. A couple folks asked me, how do FBI agents fly? Can you justify business class or an upgrade? And the answer is no. If you get upgraded, great. If you happen to have a lot of frequent flyer miles, so be it. But you can't spend the government's money on it. You're supposed to be a good steward of the public's money because you're supposed to be, in theory, a civil servant. I always heard about service, but at the end of the day, we know that people are not just serving, that there's not this big opportunity cost that they're giving of their lives to go do these jobs, because we saw people get kicked out of the State Department and they were crying and they wanted to stay, right? It wasn't like they were doing some burdensome thing and they were going to get to go back to a better life. Like, that's the life they chose. And so even characterization of doing public service, when you're in charge of an agency like this, if you've got a 20-person protective detail that's on you 24/7, there's 6 or 8 federal agents, you're flying around in private jets, everybody kind of fawns all over themselves wherever you go. You're living like a billionaire. You're living like a member of royalty. And that's kind of anti-American in a lot of ways. It's certainly when you're not elected, and you're going to hold that job for 10 years. It should concern more people how much money we spend on this stuff.
Well, and this is exactly something that conservatives would have lambasted the Obama administration, or frankly, the Biden administration. I remember when I was at Fox News, I mean, there was plenty of stories about, Democrats in the Obama administration or just members of Congress having cushy private jet trips, all of this stuff. This would have been something that conservatives would have lashed out at liberals about, and now here they are doing it themselves. But so he's now trying to upgrade this jet, trying to get larger accommodations. And he makes that joke in that video that you shared where he's like, not just one jet, I want 2 to be able to fly around. Why does he need 2?
Well, they already have 2. That's the thing. They have 2 jets. They've got a turboprop. They've got this, and they've got the Gulfstream, the 550, which allegedly used to be owned by Robert Kraft, an actual billionaire, a guy who's worth north of $10 billion, owns the Patriots. So that's apparently where the first jet came from. So they got it on the used market, and I think they spent $40 or $50 million on the thing. It's a $62 million aircraft plus whatever the FBI does for comms. So it's not an inexpensive tool to be used. And originally, it was actually not acquired for executive travel, as the current request for information says. It was actually acquired for counterterrorism resources, so they could fly out to major event and collect evidence and get people on the ground really quickly, kind of Criminal Minds style, where the jet's on the tarmac and they run out there and they jump into it if they need to. There are all kinds of like fast response teams that are out of the Quantico area and the Northern Virginia area that theoretically have to go to national priority events. But I think he wants it because he wants to, because it's probably really nice to be in there. Chris Wray apparently put a snow cone machine in. So that was one of his upgrades to it. So that's kind of fun to think about. It wasn't boxes of booze kind of scandal, but I mean, that's fairly scandalous to have that. And I've been completely consistent about this ever since I've been in the Bureau. I called this stuff out. I think they're problematic. I think the fact that they use it like it's their own personal, sort of jet setting tool. Chris Wray left a hearing when he was in front of Chuck Grassley and folks in the Senate doing a judiciary hearing and was called out for that. Miranda Devine has written about it. I've contributed to pieces for the Daily Wire about this. So it was the reason that director, what was it? Was it Sessions that actually got kicked out over this? I know Comey had issues about his use of the private jet. It's been a contentious thing. It's just become more and more normalized. And my favorite answer, because Chris Wray said it, and now Kash Patel will hide behind it too. It is the policy of the FBI that the FBI director fly everywhere in a private jet, so he has access to communications. But to be clear, Clayton, the policy is written and it is under the direction of the FBI director. So it's a self-serving policy. We can't act like this is something they don't have the ability to change. They could change that tomorrow. It's something that Louis Freeh used to do, supposedly. Like he, disbanded the director detail and actually lived kind of like an agent would, like you'd expect. Like you get on a plane and you fly out and do this stuff. That's what Americans should expect. That's what conservatives should be consistent about.
You've been following this Muldoon part of the story. Maybe you can bring our audience up to speed on this. Mega donor for GOP, for Ted Cruz, for Senate, and others. Walk us through how this all ties together with Kash Patel and what's happening at the FBI right now.
Sure. So one of the people in that video that you just, the clip you showed, is a guy named Mike Muldoon. And he's based out of Las Vegas, although he lives in other places and has houses other places. He's very wealthy, and I don't know exactly how wealthy he is, but wealthy enough to own a private plane. And if my memory serves, I think he owns like a Gulfstream 400. So it's the step down from the one that Kash Patel is currently flying in. And the reason why I know that he has a private plane is because he was talking to me and Kash Patel about it while we sat at dinner in Las Vegas. This was for SHOT Show. I want to say it was in 2023, the beginning of 23. So before Trump has been elected, and it was in the middle of the Biden term. And we were talking about Chris Wray's use of the jet, which was really contentious at the time and something I was focused in on. Muldoon was explaining the cost per hour of operating these things, the cost per touchdown at various different airports, and so why someone who owns a private jet might fly into a regional area instead of landing at, let's say, DCA Reagan in the Washington, D.C. area. And at the time, the issue was that Chris Wray was permanently making the FBI jet leave the place where it stays, which is a hangar in Manassas Regional Airport called HEF for the three-letter title. It would fly over to Reagan to pick him up, DCA, at a cost of $2,500 for a government jet. Muldoon told me it's $10,000 for a regular private jet just to land there, just to put its wheels on the tarmac. And the government was getting a discounted rate at $2,500. And then every single time Chris Wray would have his sort of vehicle, 3-vehicle convoy drive him down there. He would load up in the jet. He would fly to wherever he was going, and then the jet would fly back up to Manassas, wait for him, then fly back, and then land at DCA. So it was costing us upwards of like $10,000 or $20,000 every single time. Additional cost that Chris Wray wanted to use that jet. So we were talking about what a problem that was. Patel agreed at the time. Muldoon, I didn't know this, but he owns the house that Kash Patel has been living in for the last couple of years, at least since 2022. And so the two men in Las Vegas. And so I've confirmed this looking at the Federal Election Commission records. The house of record, or the home of record for Michael Muldoon, is the same house of record that Kash Patel votes out of. That's very strange. And I don't know if the men are roommates or if he just has an extra house so Kash could live in it and it was an advantageous thing. But we do know from guys on the detail, people inside the FBI reporting to us, that Kash Patel is spending an awful lot of time in Las Vegas and flying that private jet that he currently has out to Vegas. So all of these things are very unusual, and it's just like it's the opposite of what people thought was going to do when we were complaining about Chris Wray corruption, to see someone coming in and doing like what looks worse at this point.
So let me just get this straight. Yeah. Kash Patel, we have the photos here. This is the house. This is the house here in Vegas. So we'll put these up on the screen here. So from your sources at the FBI, Cash is basically living in this house. We don't know if he's living there with this billionaire donor, Michael Muldoon, in the house together, which is strange. And where is Cash's girlfriend in all of this? Does she live there at the house as well?
Everything I can tell, she lives in Nashville, so not there. Now, maybe they've relocated and decided to cohabitate, but maybe not. There's been a lot of questions about the age differential between Kash Patel and the girlfriend. A lot of sort of like Israeli intel speculation. I think those are speculative. I can't substantiate any of it, and I don't think they can either.
She's like a honeypot or something.
Correct. But the other question that I've had people bring up, including people that are homosexual FBI employees that are pro-Trump, which is not a big subset of the world. Let's just be real. Like, there's not a ton of that. Just if you were to put those categories together, have indicated to me that they don't really know a lot of 50 or 40 something year old Indian men that are unmarried and living with other men that don't have something going on. So there's kind of a rumor in intel kind of passing around through the FBI, folks that have come through whistleblower channels, folks that I know personally that have kind of intimated that like this may be more than just, two men living together, which, by the way, in their 40s and 50s is a pretty strange circumstance. I don't know any of my friends that are doing that. Maybe one friend of mine that does, that's kind of like, kind of living in an alternative sort of scenario, but it's just, it's not sort of the transparent sort of look. And then the last thing we've been hearing is that the protective detail is having to wake up Kash Patel on a regular basis because he's out partying all night in Washington, D.C., maybe in Las Vegas as well. And then we heard exactly the opposite said by Dan Bongino when he went out on a Fox interview saying, he's there at 6 a.m. and he's working until, from 6 to 7 p.m. and he's there all day long. And everything I hear is the exact opposite of that. So now you've got Dan Bongino apparently like maybe running cover and acting like he's working when he's not. And at the end of the day, all of this does, especially in the light of this Epstein situation, it's making Donald Trump look terrible. It's giving him people that seem to have, they're more focused on themselves. Again, that website is very, very unusual. You don't see the FBI director call attention to himself. Usually the FBI's director's profile is he does some hits in front of Congress. He does a couple of like canned puff piece interviews with whoever's friendly or sympathetic. And they kind of stay out of the way and try to let the FBI do the work because it's not trying to be, a look at me type organization. And we've seen the opposite in this Trump administration.
Here's this headline. I'll put this up on the screen. Kash Patel wants to work from home for the FBI, but who does he live with? The new FBI director says he plans to work from home and run things remotely from Las Vegas. But why won't he answer about who else he lives with in this house? So how problematic would it be for the FBI director to live in a home? I mean, I'm thinking about like state secrets and confidentiality, classified information, living with like a billionaire donor to the Republican Party in a huge mansion in Las Vegas. Like this sounds incredibly fishy to me.
Yeah, it's very unusual to say the least. Also, while Kash was working for the National Security Council, he apparently accepted a pretty expensive, lavish trip to Scotland with this same guy, Michael Muldoon. They haven't hidden this friendship that they've had for a long period of time. This goes back, to the previous Trump administration. It's just really unusual. And here's the deal. This is the basic nuts and bolts of it. As somebody who used to have to fill out a background form, you have to notify the federal government when you hold a high level clearance, if you hold a top secret clearance, if you hold the SCI read-ins for compartmented information. You have to tell them when someone decides to live with you for more than a couple of days. If I were to take on a parent, for example, if I'm an FBI agent and my parent gets sick and I'm going to move them into my home, I have to let the FBI know about that. And they're going to go do a vetting process to be able to confirm. If you take on a roommate because you're financially not solvent, you have to let the FBI know who that is. You have to let the national security organizations go and they do a vetting process. They'll go look into your roommates as well, because when you're privy to certain secrets, like you're not going to be perfect at home. And so they know who your spouse is. They know who your children is. They know who the people that you live with and what kind of people are going to know what's going on in your life. And that becomes the business of the government. So that question in that headline, which is basically a regional newspaper, it's a valid and legitimate question. And it's also one that the intel services ask of their own employees. So you don't get special rules when you're not elected. The only person that really gets special rules are the people that get interim clearances from the president and the president himself, and he gets to decide, who is and who is not out. But at the end of the day, the agencies that work for the American people all kind of have a kind of a rule book they follow, and the FBI director, as far as I know, has not actually an exception to it. They actually do follow through on, and we used to do background checks on federal judges and everything else, and all these things are necessary. You fill out this whole packet. It's called the SF-86. It's grueling if you're a grown-up and you've lived in more than one place. You're writing every single address, people you knew in those addresses, every employer you've ever had, people who knew you at those jobs, both in the job and that were friends of yours at the time. And it ends up being a really thick stack. And so the Office of Personnel Management holds onto these things, and they do special investigations through the FBI to be able to make sure they can grant these clearances, and we don't compromise state secrets.
That's all so creepy. It's all so weird. Kyle, always great to see you. Thank you so much for this. This is just the beginning of the onion being pulled back, I'm sure. Thank you for your reporting on this. And I hadn't heard this before, so this is fascinating. Thank you, Kyle. This is great.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much, Kyle. Great to see him as well. All right, coming up on the show, we're going to talk. We're going to decide what we're going to talk about here because we're working on it. One of our guests is having some issues with their webcam, so we're trying to get them on here in a second.
Well, our plan is to talk about the new EPA report that chemtrails are not a real thing. It's based on inaccurate claims. If we don't talk about that, we have other things to talk about. Clayton is he's very keen on talking about the Superman boycott because he is dead set convinced that it is an anti-Israel movie and that it is actually playing out what is happening in Gaza in front of us. If we don't talk about that today, we'll talk about it tomorrow because you're excited about that, right?
I am.
So that's a little teaser. It may be a 24-hour teaser. We'll see what happens. Before we do that, though, what was that?
Yeah.
What?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall we, before we do that, though, we're going to tell you about our show sponsor at Morgan & Morgan. Take a look.
If you've been seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you should know exactly what your rights are. That's why I want to tell you about Morgan & Morgan. They're America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states. And unlike a lot of firms that settle quickly, Morgan & Morgan doesn't take lowball offers from insurance companies. Just in the past few months, they won $12 million in Florida when the insurance company offered only $350,000. And in New York, they secured $6.8 million on a case where the offer was just $275,000. And the best part? It's absolutely free unless you win. Insurance companies try to pay out as little as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights to get you more if you become their client. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it right from your phone. It's that easy. You can visit forthepeople.com/redacted, or you can click the link in the description to get started. All right, let's talk about this. Almost the entire cast of the new Superman movie are Jewish, including Superman himself, David Cornsweet. But that's not stopping a lot of Israelis from boycotting the new Superman film because of its anti-genocide, anti-war stance. Now, we saw this film the other day, absolutely loved it. It's not a perfect movie. It is the highest grossing Superman film of all time out of the gate, right out of the gate. So first weekend returns on this. Good. Great summer popcorn movie. You want like strong hero again, male-female relationship. Oh my God, a man and a woman are allowed to like have a relationship again. Superman and Lois Lane allowed to kiss on screen. It actually got censored in India because it was a little too hot to handle. Some kissing was a little too hot to handle in India and some other countries. Nevertheless, the movie, even right out of the gate, I'm not going to spoil anything, don't worry about it, so no spoilers, but like right out of the gate, the movie lines up within the first 30 seconds of the film letting you know that Superman just stopped a war, stopped a genocide, essentially, stopped the slaughtering of innocent people. And so that was the pretext before the movie even started. You get that sort of preamble. And then right after that, during the movie, you know that this guy who is essentially basically like Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to conquer an entire country, ethnically cleanse an entire population, wipe them out, in order to expand as a land grab into this territory, and Superman is not having it. And the guy is like, it's like,
and
they
it
cast
is,
a guy as like
if
Netanyahu.
We're drawing parallels here, it is a well-funded army backed by weapons makers in what is presumably the United States
Lex Luthor,
against a civilian army on foot, unarmed,
with shovels,
children,
donkeys,
children with donkeys and shovels. So could it be be any clearer than that we are experiencing in real life. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm like, how long did they have this planned? How long was this written? Could it have been written to showcase what we're seeing in Gaza when that war is about 1.5 years old? I don't know anything about filmmaking to know. Could they have pivoted like that? Could they have foreseen this? Is it that intentional?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, how long the script has been in the process. James Gunn, by the way, who it comes from Jewish heritage, who's the director and the writer of the film, although he was raised Irish Catholic. He doesn't profess to be Jewish, but of course he has that background. And he's not spoken on that specifically. But anyway, he wrote the film. He directed the film. I don't know how long it's taken him to actually put this into place. So you could say it doesn't matter if it's about Israel. It's an anti-genocide movie. It's an anti-war movie. And this has Israelis taking to the internet and boycotting the film. And of course, you saw Ben Shapiro come out and say that he wasn't a fan of it. He's really trying to do as much as he can to basically not admit that this is really a reflection on Israel. So it really doesn't matter if it's about Israel or not. It's an anti-genocide film. It's an anti-war film. It's an anti-ethnic cleansing film at the heart of it.
Right. And so now Israelis are taking to social media saying that they should boycott it. They're boiling with rage because of the parallels here. They don't like the way that this has been betrayed.
To me, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe that. It's like, oh, you mean it's so you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing yourself back in this, because nowhere in the movie do they mention Israel. Nowhere in the movie do they talk about Palestine. It's a fictional country. So it's like they're almost like they're having their own self-reflection. They're projecting. They're like, oh, yeah, so you're talking about Israel then. You're saying that we're bad because we like, we're
because we want the war
ethnic
so
cleansing.
badly.
We want this.
Right.
No, that's not in the movie at all. But I guess you feel that. Is there a guilty conscience, perhaps? Go ahead, Philip.
I don't think the movie's about me when I see that, because I'm not doing a genocide. So I don't draw any parallel back to me, So,
right.
do you
Good
have
point. Good point.
So are they upset then that Superman is trying to stop the bloodshed of innocent people caught in the crossfire of warmongers and war machines? Like, that's essentially what they're doing here. You have children that are standing up, raising like a Superman flag, saying, "Don't kill me. We hope that you'll come and protect us, Superman. Will you, in fact, step in and protect us?" There's no mention of Israel. It is, Joe, though, just an anti-war film. So it's hilarious to me. It's like a lot of self-reflection. They're just upset that, hey, we're not embracing this type of ethnic cleansing.
Right. No, it's not, obviously. We don't know how widespread it is. We don't have numbers for how this movie performed in Israel yet. But the tweets that we do see, the movements that we do see to boycott because of what they think is this art mirroring life is interesting, especially because Zionists don't condone boycotts, especially peaceful ones like the BDS. The BDS is boycott, divest from Israel while they are treating Palestinian people this way. Now, Zionists want to make that illegal for Americans, meaning we are not allowed to boycott Israel. So we are not allowed to boycott Israel, but they can boycott, by this logic, anything they want. They can boycott a movie they don't like. So I guess it's just us that shouldn't be allowed to boycott by this logic, right? Do you follow that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm just reading the comments here in the chat. People are like, well, if Gunn wanted to make Izzy Chance in our Rumble chat says, if Gunn wanted to make an anti-genocide film, let him not screw over an established IP, perhaps. Okay. I mean, well, just read the comic books. I mean, I have for years. I've read the comic books, and this was really a throwback to like the golden era of Superman comics, and blowing up tanks was a regular thing that Superman did. So this is like right out of the comic books.
It's on brand.
So it's not destroying an established IP. And we're talking about the films. I have to say, like the last, I think if anything, Zack Snyder in many ways kind of tanked a lot of what Superman did in the Man of Steel, and then Superman versus Batman garbage, all of that stuff. Like you want to talk about
studio
tanking
signed
IP.
off on it. Make no mistake that James Gunn didn't make, he had to get permission to do everything he did. The studio wouldn't let him do something if they didn't agree with it.
Yeah, when you're talking about when you're talking about like an iconic character like Superman, they're not just going to like blindly just kind of go, well, whatever Warner Brothers wants here.
Yeah. That bit aside, I will say it is a crowd pleaser. We have 2 girls, 8 and 13. We have a 15-year-old boy. Everyone liked it in our house. Everyone enjoyed themselves.
I should also point out there is a great moment in this too, and this is again not a spoiler, but I guess it's a little bit of a spoiler. It's not
now
crucial.
I cannot corroborate this on the internet, but this is what we think.
Oh no, that's not what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to talk about the monkeys.
Oh yes.
So there's something with Lex Luthor where he has like an army of, he has a whole thing with, it's a real quick clip. I mean, it's like 20 seconds long, but he has like basically an army of like internet trolls. Propagandists like Hasbara monkeys basically on the internet, like bots, like going after, like saying negative things. And like, like when we would speak out against the Ukrainian war and then the genocide that was being carried out against the ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine, and we were talking about the BS in the Ukrainian war, we would get, all these bot armies would come on immediately and start like in our chats.
Russian propagandists, Putin lovers,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely right. So anyhow, we found it to be worthwhile effort. So let us know if you see those parallels. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about chemtrails and how the EPA is saying that this is absolutely a conspiracy. Before we do that, though, is it okay if we tell our friends over about Genicel? Are we prepared to do that? Is that okay, Philip? So summer is here. And of course, summer comes with those dark marks, sunspots, and other blemishes that the sun leaves behind. But you can correct that with the Genicel Dark Spot Corrector. It visibly fades away dark marks, sunspots, scars, and other signs of discoloration all over your skin. Formulated with the patented LumaSkin, a revolutionary new ingredient, and Genicel's legendary base is shown to visibly reduce those age spots, sunspots, and make for a brighter, more youthful look. You'll be amazed at how you look, guaranteed, or your money back. Right now, you can get this dark spot corrector with every Genicel Complete package for over 70% off if you use our code REDACTED at checkout for this extra discount. It's world-class skincare that works, guaranteed, or your money back. Order yours now and get the Genicel Moisturizer for a hydrating, moisturizing effect on your delicate skin during, again, harsh summer months. So again, go to genicel.com/redacted. Use the code REDACTED at checkout. Get that extra 70% discount on the skincare package. It's genicel.com/redacted. Well, the environmental agency is now saying that chemtrails are not a real thing. They're calling this a conspiracy theory. Here is now, according to this new report on the EPA website, where they say that chemtrails is a term that some people use to inaccurately claim that contrails are the result of routine air traffic and are intentionally releasing dangerous chemicals into the atmosphere. Here is where you can find that on that government website. No chemtrails, they're saying. It's only contrails, which is normal condensation from airplanes, they say. But they do admit that airplanes do spray things for agricultural purposes or firefighting. What about weather manipulation, though? They say they don't know anything about that. The federal government, not aware. Well, this doesn't add up for many, many reasons, one of which is that we've seen permits for weather modification. We know that that happens through all sorts of legitimate sources. Anna Matson is an independent journalist and the host of If People Only Knew, the podcast. She's been following us, so she joins us to discuss. So what do you think of this absolute burying of what are legitimate concerns?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. And second, when I first saw the announcement that we're releasing all this information, I was so excited to go dig in. And I should have known better that, can't get too excited about what the government's doing. So they actually released two different pages. I believe it was like epa.gov/contrails and epa.gov/geoengineering. And they are playing word games with us because on one hand, they say, no, there's no chemtrails, you silly goose, okay? And then they go on to say that there's no such thing as geoengineering. Government's never been a part of it. We're not aware of anything, nothing. But then they do actually admit that there is weather modification going on, but they only say that they know of one company doing it. And then they talk about cloud seeding. And they're like, yes, 9 different states do cloud seeding, and we're very well aware of that. So they're just playing games with us. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. If you are spraying chemicals in the air to change the weather, that it's weather modification, geoengineering, whatever have you.
It's a pure gaslighting, right? I mean, that's the way I see it. They're telling us that don't believe your lying eyes. So when campers, near what happened in Texas, were out in the forest and their tents are filled with like blue rainwater. Don't believe that. Nothing to see here. Don't pay attention. And they change these terms semantically. You have stratospheric aerosol injection, chemtrails, cloud seeding. To me, they're just playing semantic games here at the end of the day. And there's no government accountability for these companies. We saw what happened in Dubai when they overseeded the skies. And we know that the companies there that were responsible for it were wide-scale flooding as a result of that. So just like tweaking it a little bit can lead to widespread problems. But there doesn't seem to be any government accountability at all for this.
Well, and what's interesting is as I was digging through those web pages that the EPA released, I went down this rabbit hole of, okay, they cited this, they sourced that, and it ended up I found a study about the silver iodide that they use when they cloud seed. And the study said that repeated cloud seeding can actually have damaging effects and prevent photosynthesis from happening. So this is what's crazy to me. I always say I'm a true environmentalist, not a fake one. So I actually want to protect the environment. And while people think that they're doing that by trying to make it rain, they're actually preventing plants from growing if they do it too much in one area. So, we really, if we want to take care of the planet, which I think everyone does, we need to be smart about it. We need to stop playing God here.
Now, the problem is we see state by state, certain states are saying, well, we're going to introduce legislation to stop chemtrails and weather manipulation and what have you in our state. But we spoke to Nicole Shanahan on this show, and she said it really doesn't matter because it's the federal government who has really the overarching legislation, the final word on this. So could this possibly be cover for the federal government putting a stop to what each state may be trying to do? What do you think of that?
Well, I will say I just went to Florida. They banned geoengineering, and it looked like they were spraying the skies when I was there. Obviously, I talked to some pilots, and pilots do tell me that some of what we're seeing is probably a true contrail, but other things we're seeing are chemtrails. So all I know from my experience is that the last 2 years, I live in Michigan, the last 2 years, I was able to plant things actually in April outside. This year, I had to wait till the end of May. And our first nice week this year, we saw all the lines in the sky. I even saw 2 planes going by. One had a trail, one didn't. I don't know how you explain that. And then we had the coldest spring into summer we've had in years. So that's what I know. Now, I will say Marjorie Taylor Greene did just introduce a bill yesterday to prevent it even at the federal level. So that's where all of our eggs are right now in that. Even the text hasn't come out yet about that bill, but we'll see what happens with that. That's where the real change will happen.
I love the idea that we're conspiracy theorists when you literally have Bill Gates on the record. You have the UK government on the record telling us they're trying to dim the sun. So screw you. Telling us that we're conspiracy theorists. Again, incredible book. Go back, read the book that I think is called The Year Without Summer. It's about the volcano that happened, I believe it was Indonesia. And all up and down the east coast of the United States at the time, we had widespread crop destruction. We had snow in the middle of summer in the United States because of a volcano in Indonesia. Like, you want to create famine, population control. You want to destroy our food supply, get rid of meat so that Bill Gates can start giving us his processed, man boob making fake processed, whatever it is, vegetable burger thing. I don't know what the hell it is. But, we're not conspiracy theorists. They're telling us this. We're just putting the pieces together, are we not?
No, the CEO of the company that was doing cloud seeding in Texas admitted that they were doing cloud seeding 2 days prior, but don't worry, it had nothing to do with the flood. So they're literally saying it. And this guy actually messaged me a few months ago, and he's like, okay, do you want to talk about it? No, you're telling me you've already admitted to the world that you are geoengineering, that you are putting harmful chemicals into our air. And a little bit off topic, but not really. I mean, there's been study after study of all these things, like even baby formula has been found to have arsenic and lead. Tampons have been found to have lead in them. And it's because of all the chemicals everywhere in our air, in our soil, in our water. And where does it come from? It comes from things like this, and we need to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of when I read this website is no. Why? What is the motivation to lie to us? And I don't know. Like, I just, yeah.
I don't know.
Why would they do this?
I don't know if it's coming from the EPA level or from a different level. The EPA administrator very well might think that he gave us everything, but who knows who's actually pulling the strings. He seems like a genuine guy. I don't know him, but I have followed the president's cabinet very closely. And, you know, he seems genuine. But when you actually look and read through the website, anyone should be like, wait, you just said that you don't do geoengineering, but then you say you do weather modification. It doesn't make sense. Right. So anyone should be asking more questions after reading it.
Yeah.
Anna, thank you so much for joining us. What is the name of the show and where can people find it?
If People Only Knew is my podcast, and you can find me on all socials. Anna R. Matson is all of my social accounts.
Thank you, Anna. Great to see you. Welcome to the show. Really appreciate you sticking around. I know we had some back and forth tech issues, so I appreciate it.
No problem.
Finally getting lined up. Great to see you. Thank you so much. Hope you'll come back.
Thank you. Of course.
I love the name of the show, If People Only Knew. I was thinking about how I didn't realize this until we had the pleasure of meeting with Neil Oliver and his family. And his wife was saying that a lot of times she'll listen to something and she'll come out of the shower and be like, did you know this? And she's indignant about being lied to by mainstream narratives. And I'm like, I think we're the same. There must be a lot of us who just want to be smarter, listen to things all the time, and just get pissed when we are told, when we learn what we were not told, when the narratives break down, when we had, sort of swallowed things and then didn't question them and then it comes up. So I think we're an archetype. What do we call ourselves? It's like that. If people only knew, it's like indignant, sincere information searchers. We're workshop that.
How about
that's
redacted?
Not good.
How about redacted rebellion? How about we're the redacted rebels?
Yeah.
How about that?
Okay,
Since
sure.
That's the name of our show. How about that?
And I think it's like I'm especially like these kind of. I'm saying women, but men do it too. I don't know. Yeah, we'll workshop this. What do you think?
Because you're more emotional than men. Is that the thing?
Yeah, like. I don't know. For whatever reason, I felt like this is a.
Is this the point you tell her she's acting hysterical?
Yeah.
Calm down, Natalie.
Okay.
Yeah. We had a funny text thread earlier today about that. Women love to be told when they're being emotional.
Oh yes, because somebody who is a Zionist told me that my information about Israel came out too emotional, not
factually incorrect,
based. But
just emotional.
Too emotional.
Your tweet is too emotional.
Right.
Thank you, Zionist.
Yeah, how dare you tear up when talking about murdering kids?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How? I guess we should do it in sort of in cold emotion, no emotion, like No Country for Old Men kind of way.
I suppose. Okay.
Because that's how we should.
But
do
then
it.
you wouldn't need us because your AI could deliver this show and you'd have no personality, right? So. Anyway, but you're here. We're here. We're doing the work.
Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel, following us, subscribing, whether you're on YouTube or on Rumble. Thank you to all of you that subscribe and are part of our show on a regular basis. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us live. We'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern live. We do have a daily newsletter. You should subscribe to that. Hundreds of thousands of you do and receive it every morning in your inbox. You can read it in about 5 or 10 minutes over your cup of coffee. All you need to do is just go to redacted.inc, put in your email address, click, you'll receive a welcome email that you'll receive. It might go to your spam folder or your junk folder. Just dig for it. It'll come from me, Clayton at redacted.inc, and then just move it over to your inbox, drag it over, click the link in that email, say, yes, I do want to receive the newsletter. We work really hard on it. Natalie spends many hours a night working on it into the morning hours to get it published. And so we really hope that you'll enjoy this newsletter. It's free. Redacted.inc is the place to go to get the newsletter.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Bye, everyone.